Welcome to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Ben Lynch. Today we have a special guest and a dear friend of ours at Clinic Mastery joining us. We have Tristan White. He is the CEO and also the founder of the Physio Co. Tristan also wrote a wonderful book, a really practical book called Culture is Everything. I highly recommend you read that book if you're a business owner and a leader. Today, we're taking a slightly different avenue. He's been on the show before and he's talked about a number of the principles that he shares in his book. But I was really interested to follow up with Tristan and understand a little bit more about him as a person and as a leader. Because as a business owner, there are so many hats that you often wear. There are so many things that demand your attention and energy. And it's not always roses, butterflies, and rainbows. So I wanted to tap into some of the more challenging moments of being a business owner and leading a high-performing team. And I think you might find it interesting about some of the things Tristan does to be at his best. Granted, we don't always play in that state, but I wanted to find out what were some of the triggers or routines that he had that helped him navigate through some challenging times, or at least helped him get on the path where he could be the best leader at home, in business, and just the best version of himself. So we go into that. We also tap into what's life like when you've got a family and you're running a business. Tristan's got a handful of kids, soon more to come. And I was interested in how he blends work and life, because we all know balancing is a bit of a fallacy, but how you might blend that, because that seems to be quite a topic in the community. So we took a bit of a different slant here today and dived into how does he operate as the most effective leader. I hope you enjoy. Certainly a lot of practicality in here. Here's Tristan White.
This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Tristan White, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on board.
Ben, it's fantastic to be back, I reckon. I'm back as a second-time guest.
You are. You're a favourite amongst the community and the CM team in particular. We'll crack straight into it. And the first question I've got for you, Tristan, is around who's been an inspiring leader for you and what sort of impact have they made in your life?
So, Ben, it's interesting you asked me that, because if you had asked me this question a few years ago, look, I do see myself as a healthcare professional, as a physio that's progressed to be a leader and a manager and an entrepreneur. And that's something that I've identified with over the last few years. And if you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said a very big and bold and famous entrepreneur by the name of Richard Branson, who we all know. Yeah. And I've read Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity book a number of times, and I've read Screw It, Let's Do It. And I'm really inspired by the big approach that he takes to life and entrepreneurship. And I've really been inspired by that, especially his focus on being different, being memorable is really important to Branson.
Yep.
And a big focus on his people and his team, because I think that Branson's one of the people that said, take care of your people and they'll take care of your customer.
Cool.
So that's a think big answer. And I still wholeheartedly would say that from a distance, Richard Branson's been an influence on my life. But if I'm going to dive deep into the act small of actually getting stuff done, because that's the critical part of leadership. Anyone can think big, but you got to act small and bring it all to life.
Yeah.
And, Ben, my dear mother, Marge, who has been a really important part of my life, she is an action taker if ever I've known it. She is someone who, if there's something to be done, Marge is doing it. And she's a really thoughtful action taker, in that it's not just about what serves her, but what serves her family, what serves her friends, and what serves the community that she's part of. And probably no surprise that in the little community that I grew up in, where I am now in Foster, Victoria, my dear mother just happens to be a life member of the Foster Netball Club. and a life member of the Foster Basketball Association. And that doesn't come from thinking big. That comes from acting small and taking action over a long period of time. So a long answer to your question, Ben, but under the Think Big, Act Small idea, which is the podcast that I host, Richard Branson and my dear mother, Marge White, are the inspirations in my life.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. I know a lot of the stuff that you talk about, even with your guests and in your community, is about service, acts of service. And the Think Big, Act Small philosophy is one that is simple on the surface, but it also requires a lot of discipline, I imagine, and a lot of thoughtfulness. I'm wondering, how do you apply that philosophy as a leader in your day and week? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so there's a bit to it, Ben, and I think a rhythm of connection is a concept that I really do live by. And actually, just for a little bit of context, is that Think Big, Act Small is one of the core values of the Physio Co.
Yeah,
that I founded a long time ago, and it's now come across as the name of my podcast and something I wholeheartedly live by.
And Tristan, where did that come from, even the origin and even the ability to articulate it like that?
Yeah, good question, Ben. And I wish I had a wonderful answer for you, but I'm not sure is the honest one. But I can tell you that I had a sabbatical to North America to try and discover the core values of the Physio Co. way back in 2009. And I went researching other values-based businesses, and I found some that I really liked, and I really modeled some of what we do at the Physio Co. And there is one core value at the Physio Co. which is completely borrowed, or R&D, which is rip off and duplicate. And that's find a better way is definitely one that we've borrowed from somewhere else. But Think Big, Act Small is something I was inspired by somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
Really, this idea of thinking big and what big problems or challenges in the world can we identify, but then acting small to bring it to life and make it more than a dream is the idea. And so back to how I do it every day.
Yeah.
Look, Ben, I've got a planner. If any people are listening to this on their ears, I understand that, but I'm holding up a journal or a planner in my hand, and thinking big involves getting things out of my mind onto a list and then onto a prioritized list of what needs to happen as a idea of continuously thinking of connecting the dots and pattern recognition as what needs to happen to bring our vision to life, both personally and professionally, but then acting small, documenting that into a list and then prioritizing that list and working through it sporadically and but systematically from item 1 to item 3 is a really basic concept personally. That's how I do it. And similarly, as a member of a team and a leader of a team, very similar. We have a Think Big regular meeting rhythm with my teammates at the Physio Co, where we come together and we have a clear agenda for a weekly meeting with my executive team. And that's where we think big and work together. But then we head off and we've all got actions to complete. And there's a level of trust that we'll get those actions done within the next 7 days before we return to the same place to zoom out, think big, create the actions, zoom back in, get the actions done, move on. That's how we make progress.
That's such a practical way to go about doing it. So you carry that book, that journal around with you everywhere you go. And when those thoughts, that internal dialogue comes up, you're able to just document it down. And then the process is every day you're looking at 1 to 3 things, or the priorities 1 to 3, and 1 being the most important. Is that how it goes, Tristan?
Yeah, entirely, Ben. So it's a long list. And look, I've got a long list as long as my arm, if I could, or as long as the house, if I really did document everything. We've all got a really long list, but everything's important until you realize it's not. And what I mean by that is everything's important, but there is a priority order to do things in, which will have the biggest impact on the world, on myself, and on the people I work with. And maybe, Ben, this is an important tip for people that have got teams. And that is that if I've got a list of things to do, and one is a very technical task that will take me a while, but there's other jobs I need to do which will empower other team members. So if someone's waiting for something from me, that is higher on my list of priorities because I want to set them free and they can get on with 10 more jobs that they need to get done, while I'm head down doing the grunt work myself. And so
Yes.
serving others and getting those jobs done, which sets the team free, is a really important way to prioritize some of the tasks on my list.
Yeah, that's a really great distinction to make, because I was going to ask, how do you then prioritize that list? Because I know it's true for me. I know it's true for our community. They say, I got 127 things on my list to do, and they're trying to do it all. What you're saying is documenting it and prioritizing it allows you to know where to put your focus. Because if you don't, I certainly hear people say they're overwhelmed, they're stressed, they're burnt out. How then do you process and prioritize the most important ones for you? So you said you would start with the ones that are relevant for another team member being able to get on with their job. What if it's up to you to do those tasks or projects? How do you make the decision of what's a priority and what is not? Like you said, most things don't matter.
Yes. So I think the answer with that, Ben, is that bringing our vision to life in our team is the critical job of the leaders of a business. And so if there's a job which greater impacts the progress and the future of our business, then that typically is the thing that I work on first. And then I do the follow-up and the connecting the dots and the regular connection with team members secondarily. But because I want to be relaxed when I speak to team members and not be rushed like I've got big projects to work on. And if I can get the big projects which makes the progress happen, and Ben, I often work on those projects on the fringes of my workday, either at the very start or at the very end when there's less interruptions. And then I can get on with it. And so I enjoy getting up early and getting stuck into a project for a while to get some big important stuff done. And then during the day, I can spend time responding and interacting with other people and I'm less pushed for time myself. Yeah. And probably, Ben, really important note, and hopefully people might already know this, but in my journal and my list here is my list of priorities. In my inbox, which I've got one and it sometimes overflows, that's everyone else's list of priorities. So that's everyone else's to-do list. It's not mine. They've piled them up on my desk or in my inbox. It's my job to decide which ones I'm going to do in which order.
Yeah. And on that, because that is a big one. I've seen some inboxes in my time in the thousands. What's your process for handling your inbox on a daily or a weekly basis? How do you go about it? Obviously, no right or wrong, but what's your process for doing that?
Yeah, so triage is my approach,
Okay.
Ben.
Yep.
So I put regular time aside to triage, to action, and get it out of my inbox as quickly as I possibly can, as many things as possible.
Yep.
And I'm very fortunate that I've got team members that I can pass things on. And if I get an email, I like to respond to the person involved in a friendly and polite way, but I like to connect them with the person in my team who can actually get the job done. And
right.
Don't be the bottleneck is the real focus there. So don't respond to emails all day, every day is the rule that I don't always follow. Sometimes I break my own rules.
We're all human.
Yeah, that's it. But triage, take action, and move fast, I think is the response there, Ben.
And Tristan, do you have like a 1 hour time block or a 2 hour time block every day? What sort of schedule does it have in your diary?
Usually half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the arvo. As much as I'd love to say I'm an inbox zero person or zero inbox, whichever language you want to use, that's not the case for me. With one exception, and that's when I go on holidays, I will wrap it up and make sure it's all done before I go on leave. Otherwise, there's typically some actions in there that I'll get to tomorrow.
It's a terrific feeling going inbox zero before a holiday. It's almost like the Tigers winning a grand final.
Yeah,
close comparison.
Did you need to revisit that?
Yeah, I know. That's more for my Crows buddies here in Adelaide. We'll move on. I'll get a lot of heat for that. So builds on a really interesting question that we often ask people in our community as leaders is, when you are at your best as an individual, as a leader, as a spouse, as a father, mother, whoever it may be, whatever role you're playing, what are the things that you do to ensure that you're showing up as your best? What are the principles or routines or habits that you have to be at your best? So Tristan White, leader of a very great organization, what do you do to be at your best, the best leader for your exec team and the bigger team?
So Ben, I could give you some typical type responses which are important to me, and that is eating well, sleeping well, exercising, and the like. But the answer I will give you, which is something I've sort of just realised myself in recent weeks, and that is that, and it was related to a non-work situation that this came up. So I'm very fortunate to have been married for the last 10 years. Got 3 little children. We're expecting a 4th child next year, or in 2020, awesome. Which is building a little crew of our own.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. But for people that are getting married or recently married, they look towards someone who's been married for 10 years. They think, gee, you must have the answer. You must have the secret.
Right.
And I assure you, I don't have the answer or the secret, and I don't believe there is one.
Yep.
But I do believe that the relationship that I have with myself is the absolute critical part to being the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, and the best team leader that I possibly can be. And so, Ben, I need to take time to, dare I say it, engage with and manage the relationship I have with myself to make sure that I can lead other people. Now that sounds deep and crazy and a little bit woo-woo, if you will. But in short, if you ain't looking after yourself emotionally, being self-aware about how you're feeling and what's going on in your life, then I personally find it impossible to be a good team leader. And so that's the think big idea, I suppose, Ben.
Oh, lovely. Then what are some of the act small that you do? Obviously, you're different for everyone. I'm interested to understand what are the things that keep you progressing and at your best.
Yeah, so the act small parts of it is, Ben, I think definitely me and most of us humans, I reckon, we think faster than we either write or talk. And so I've personally got all these jumbled thoughts, which are, I'm sure they're useful. But then unless I organise them, then I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm not very useful to myself and to others. And so I either need to do one of two things to organise my thoughts. I need to write in my journal, and that's not my list of actions. That's actually to reflect on and gather my thoughts and how I'm feeling and what's important to me. Or I need to have a chat to someone else, a friend, someone close, someone that I trust, probably my wife or one of my close mates, and to really organise my thoughts. And so the answer to your question is, how do I do the act small on my relationship with myself is organise my thoughts. And the way I organise my thoughts is to slow down and either write them or talk to someone so that I can really be clear as to what's important to me as a leader. And when I'm prepared, I'm planned, I'm organised, I can be the best leader to other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love again, coming back to the act small, some simple things that you can do to reset, be the best version of yourself as a leader. Are there things that you have in your environment that also serve as perhaps prompts or triggers for you? Things on your keyboard, on your desktop, in your office. Do you use things like that to help you? Because we all have bad moments. Hopefully not too many extend beyond days or weeks. We all have bad moments and sometimes need some form of external reference to get us back on track. Do you use anything like that?
Yeah, I do, Ben. So look, I'm very, very lucky. I work from home a few days a week, and I work from a home office in Foster, and also then I get to our PhysioCo support office in South Melbourne, and I get around the country to visit our team regularly as well. And in our support office and our work environment, our office environment, really making sure that we've got our core purpose, our core values, and our vision as to where we're headed front and center in every room that I possibly can. Everywhere where I look, it's really clear as to what we're about and where we're headed. And I think that's a continuous reminder on the think big concept is really important, because if I want to act small or be reminded of act small, all I need to do is peer into that inbox that we spoke of before, or have a look at the long list of stuff I've got to do. There's plenty of act small going on there,
Yeah.
but being reminded as to where we're headed and why we show up to work and why we spend so much time doing what we're doing is really important. So that's in a work sense, Ben. Here at home, where I am at the moment, in my home office, I've got something on my wall which I think you'll know what I'm about to mention, Ben, because you've heard me talk about this before, and that is that there is something called the Made to Thrive star is on my wall. It's a big poster. Made to Thrive is a book by a person that I know well. He's a friend of mine, but he's also a coach of mine. His name is Brad Giles. And Brad Giles has written a book called Made to Thrive. And in that book is a star diagram that's got 5 points on it. And the 5 points are the important jobs of a CEO. And those 5 points are accountability, ambassador, culture, strategy, and succession planning. And
Right.
and so that's on my wall. And every day of my life, as I work through my long list and I know where we're headed as a business, but I peer off and just make sure, hey, what's your job? And am I doing the important parts of my job? And is what's on my list today aligned with at least one, if not more, of those really important parts of my job as a CEO? And that's one of the ways that I keep myself on track, I suppose, Ben.
That's a really powerful thing to have, that visual. I can imagine, I find, especially for the clinic owners who are listening in, they're often wearing many hats in their business. They perhaps haven't built or are in the process of building some support team members around the work that they're doing. And so that ability to sometimes just simplify the most important parts of your role. I love that it's, a singular image, and what Brad's done there is articulated that beautifully.
Ben, one more thing is that I'm in my home office now, as I said. You can see me, and behind me there's a nice looking bookshelf, and over there on my left is this Made to Thrive star on the wall. But behind the screen that you're appearing from in front of me as we do this via video is a wall that's dedicated to my children. And and there is a phenomenal amount of pictures and paintings and fingerprints and stories and all sorts of stuff which are on the wall over there.
Yes.
That's important part of them being connected to me and the time that I spend working from home, and they're present in here with me all the time.
Cool.
And so it reminds me of the important things in my life which ain't work related.
Yeah. And on that, then you work a couple of days from home, and also just the fact of having a family, running a business. How do you manage the flow and blend between work life and family life? What are some of the things that help you maybe separate them or blend them together?
Yeah, so Ben, it's I think I can only go deep on the truth here, and that it's a struggle.
Yep.
It's a struggle for me. It's a struggle for many of us. I don't think there is a magic answer, and this idea of work-life balance is a complete misnomer, and that is because balance is like a seesaw when it's in one spot, and if we ever get said balance, it's fleeting at best. It might be for an hour.
Great distinction.
Yeah, so I'm into blend. I'm into work-life blend, and that's why I work from home. I get up early. I get up early. My kids get up early. They're usually up before 6 o'clock or about 6 o'clock in the morning, and they will find me at my desk having done some work before they get up. And that's, I work from home, a very early morning shift for me to get some of the important stuff done off my list. And then this morning's a good example. It's a beautiful day here. It's going to be pretty hot. I do live in the southeast part of Victoria, which is pretty rough and pretty wet weather sometimes. But this morning, two of my kids, one in the stroller and in the pram, and another one on their bike. We've been for a run. I went for a run. They came with me, bike and in the pram. We did that between about 6 and 7 in the morning. Came back, had some brekkie, and then I'm back at my desk from about 8:30 until I will pick him up from school, the Sabo, at about 3:30. So split shifts, I think, is probably the answer.
Yes.
When working from home.
We might change pace here a little bit and direction. Obviously, culture is everything, is the big message that you have to share with the community, and how they can think big and act small within their businesses with a certain priority and focus on the people and the team who are part of it, and also the clients that they serve. When things aren't going so well, like you said, when it is a bit of a struggle or a challenge, and certain team members
Mhm.
might be not performing as well as they're meant to. How do you go about handling those conversations when there perhaps needs to be some radical candor, there needs to be some feedback, and people need to be held to account? What's your process for doing and dealing with that?
Yeah, so Ben, I think it's really important. And so look, I've been giving some stories, examples of my job as a CEO of a larger health business. But remembering full well that I started the Physio Co from just one person. It was just me as a physio dashing
Yeah.
around helping older people. And so the various sizes of a clinic through its growth do change, and the responsibilities change. But there's one thing I've learned over these years of leading people, and that is that when things aren't working out very well at work, for a team member and or for myself for that reason sometimes, often as a clinic owner or as a manager, we think to ourselves, what is the work-related reason this person's not performing? And the more that I collect this pattern recognition and data over a long period of time, I discover that it's often got nothing to do with work. It's
Yeah, wow.
There's often, when there's a work-related challenge, there's often something going on in someone's life that is distracting them, that is challenging them, that's really affecting their work. And so if, as a clinic owner or as a manager, if I lean in on that person and I give them a hard time for what's not working out at work, and at the same time they've got the situation ain't working out at home, we get into this really challenging resistance fighting sort of situation, if you will. And so, Ben, I reckon that we need to lean in with an interested ear by being a curious and empathetic leader that says, I've noticed things aren't working out. What's up? What's going on? Can I help you out? And that's where I like to start from. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of work-related reasons why things are not don't work out. And in that case, we do have to be firm leaders and we have to be clear on our expectations. But just make sure you don't assume that it's a problem related to you or the work when it's actually a problem absolutely nothing to do with where you are in your business at that moment in time. So my response is deal with that first, and if there's nothing going on that person is willing to share, then the response is set the example, be very clear on the expectations, and make sure that you're delivering on what you said you'll do, because being a leader that does one thing and expects something else is never something that works out well in my experience.
Yes, some very sage advice, Tristan. That makes a lot of sense. I guess a lot of the health professionals will talk about, treating the person as well as the injury that comes into their clinic. We're really focusing on the person that's part of the team as well, and helping them out as best as we can. I love that distinction and the curiosity and empathy. Really cool. So when things are going well, everyone's up and about, very happy, and making a lot of great progress on a number of fronts. Are there particular things that you do, that the team do, to be able to actually bring that joy or bring that energy into the work that they do every single day, so that they're perhaps taking more control over how everyone's performing and engaging as a team?
Yeah, sure do, Ben. I think that we've just talked about what happens, what to do or what to consider when things aren't going the way you'd hoped or the way you planned. And the response there really is take action and get involved, take action. Don't assume that you know what's going on is the suggestion for when things aren't working out. When things are working out, get involved and celebrate them. And what I mean by that is, in business and in life, there are no goalposts. There are no quarter-time breaks or half-time breaks or the end of the match where you can stand around in a circle and stand around in a circle and throw Gatorade at each other and sing the Tigers theme song as an example, Ben, if you did happen to win 2 premierships in 3 years.
Oh, jeez. I hope we keep Xavier Dersma anyway.
Yeah. Moving on. But my point is, I reckon one of the most important things we can do as leaders is to catch people doing something right and mention it and notice it and just say, hey, I love what you're doing there. I really appreciate it. Or, hey, you seem really happy today. What's going on? And that's a way to open up a conversation that says, well, you know what? This has got nothing to do with work, but geez, I'm excited about going away on the weekend or whatever's going on. And that's when you get a real connection as human beings. And when you're connected as human beings, you typically like to spend more time with each other, and we can do better work, but we can also be better people as well. So be curious, catch people doing something right, and celebrate the mini wins is something that I reckon is really important.
Oh, that's really cool. I think reflecting on the fact that there are so many challenges that you face day to day or week to week in business, to be able to recognize the wins as you've done there is really good, and good to focus on the positives.
Entirely, Ben. Entirely. And in a clinic situation, just to come back to the typical clinic situation, if someone sticks to time, they're respectful of their patient's time and of their own time and of the clinic staff's time, and they stick to it, there's nothing better than praise someone for doing what might be expected, and it might be teeny tiny, but geez, they're the small things that actually get people to stop and think, you know what, that's a skill that I used to be a bit crap at managing my time, and now I'm on time, and someone noticing it. That really does make people leave the clinic with a spring in their step and feeling good about the progress they're making. So don't ever underestimate the small things that can make a big difference to someone else's life and career.
That is such a great point, because I think often I'm guilty of this. I think a lot of clinic owners I've met over the years have had this happen, where because it's an expectation, well, it's just assumed that's what you would do. But what you're saying is that, yes, that may be the expectation, but let's acknowledge it. Let's celebrate it. Let's reinforce it. That's such a simple thing that could be taken today and someone could act on. Over the years, I imagine you've learned many lessons and journaled plenty of them. I'm looking forward to the next 3 editions of the book and lessons from Tristan White. If you were speaking to yourself when you first started out, having had all these lessons, what would you advise yourself?
I'd give myself some advice which is in the act small advice or category, Ben, and it's from the sage words of Seth Godin. And Seth Godin has got a very simple 2-word term, which does sound like a swear word or profanity if you're not careful, but it is ship it, SHIPIT, ship it.
Ship it.
And it's quite simply get it done, get the perfectionist out of you, and get on and write that crappy first draft, take action, and knowing full well that where you're making progress is the way that we learn and we evolve and we take action. And so that would be my act small sort of suggestion. And I reckon I need to remind myself of that of most days, and really important for health clinic owners and health business owners, because we are perfectionists.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
For sure.
A quick side story is that we had I think it was a long time ago, we had a Myers-Briggs assessment of our middle management team at the Physio Co. I think there were seven team leaders at the time, and 6 of 7 came back as a perfectionist profile. No surprises.
No surprises. Absolutely. I guess it's ingrained and conditioned that you need to read the research, you need to know the answer, you need to be able to be right and get it right for many appropriate reasons. But in business, it definitely can hold people back. So really, ship it from Seth Godin is get it done. Just make progress.
Ben, don't ever forget as well, I think it's really important for us business owners that there's 2 really powerful words to keep in mind. Thank you is, I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 words, by the way, but thank you is important. But there are 2 other words which you can easily put into your repertoire, and I think it's important to get them in there as often as possible where appropriate, and that is, I'm wrong. I got it wrong. I made a mistake. I'm not perfect. I probably never will be. Actually, you know what? Let's revise that. I never will be.
Yeah.
I made the best decision I could have at the time. But you know what? What I realize now is I was wrong right then. I'm sorry. This is what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I think we can manage our perfectionism, by realizing that getting it wrong most of the time ain't a life and death situation.
Wow. That's a great one to add on there. I know we've covered a few different areas here today, and in particular, perhaps some of the other side, not so positive and uplifting side, but some of the real and challenging sides of business, and to finish with that very genuine, very authentic note as a leader that we can take in. It's hard to swallow. It's very hard to swallow saying I'm wrong, but I really appreciate that perspective. Tristan, you've given us some incredible insights today. For those who are listening out and are not already connected with your great work, what are some of the things that they can do to reach out and follow the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, look, Ben, firstly, thanks for having me on and thanks for doing what you do at Clinic Mastery. I'm a big fan of the work you do and I appreciate the opportunity to be involved. If people are interested, head on over to my home on the web, which is tristanwhite.com.au. That's where you'll find all sorts of stuff, including you can subscribe to a regular newsletter, listen to the podcast, and get involved with some other coaching programs which are coming up for people-focused leaders.
I love it. Tristan, thank you so much for allowing us to think big and act small on the back end of this podcast.
You're welcome, Ben. Thanks for having me, mate. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast. And please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.